everyone. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First thing on the agenda is the agenda approval. Is there any changes or additions?
Mr. Chair, under 7A, we will also have the quote and the contract for the security cameras, along with the quote for the updating of panic buttons. Both of those were included in the courthouse security grant, and just got missed on this. Scott will bring it up.
All right, thank you. I have a motion for approval.
I'll move.
Thank you, Tom. And a second.
Yep, I'll second.
Thank you, Shar. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Public input. Any public input this morning? Doesn't appear. All righty. Consent agenda. There again, any changes or additions? No? Okay. Can you get a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Thank you, Dave.
I'll second.
Thank you, Shar. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. County employee recognition. The County Sheriff, we have Jessica Petrie, began her full-time position of dispatch jailer on February 15th of 2022. Environmental Services, Aaron Anderson began the full-time position of environmental specialist on February 28th. Good morning, Aaron.
Welcome.
Highway Department, Benjamin Pickett, Maintenance 2, is recognized for 12-plus years of service from November 30th of 2009 to March 11th of 2022. Information Technology, we have Zach Haskins. Good morning, Zach.
Morning. Welcome.
Began the full-time position of Information Technology Technician on February 14th of this year. Social Services, Adam Bach began the full-time position of Case Aide on February 14th of 2022. And Solid Waste, Josh Hochstetter, Certified Attendant 1, is recognized for 3+ years of service from July 2nd of 2018 to March 1st of 2022. Thank you, Jason. All righty, and we're on to solid waste. Morning, Josh.
Good morning. All right, so the item I have this morning is to review and approve quotes for a new forklift. We received 2 quotes for a forklift, one from FM Forklift Sales and Service out of Fargo and one from Bennett Material Handling out of Hopkins, with the low quote being FM Forklift, and it's for a Toyota LP forklift, and FM forklift quoted us $16,000 for a trade-in for our 2011, which would be trading in, and it's up at the North Transfer Station, is due to be replaced, and is a budgeted item for 2022. The lead time for the Toyota was July, August, and includes a new rotator, and that's how we empty the bins into the equipment or containers. So my recommendation would be to approve the low quote with trade-in for FM Forklift Sales and Service out of Fargo.
Yeah, I noticed the ETA on the other one is 18 months out.
Yep, and I was talking to the FM guy last week too, and they expect a lot more orders, so he thinks that the ETA is going to keep getting pushed out too. So it's kind of hit and miss for equipment nowadays, how long it's going to take to get here. So.
Sure. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Thank you, Tom. And a second?
Second.
Shar. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, I just wanted to take a minute and let you guys know that our regional grant that we applied for, we got denied funding for. And that was for the CAP grant, or a grant for construction demolition waste that Beltrami applied for, Beltrami County, for our region. So just got notice of that this morning, and we'll take and regroup and see what else we can come up with, so.
Josh, what was the grant amount?
I think it was around 150,000, so.
Is that something then you apply for every year, or?
I don't know, we'll probably maybe discuss it at our regional meeting next week and see if it's something we restructure it, and maybe we try to do it without grant funding too, since there's 9 counties involved, so. I don't know yet, we'll have to wait and see. so.
Alrighty, thank you. Social services.
Hi, Brian.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. We've got up on the agenda a few of our contracts that are just for the 2022, 2023 that are rolling through that we got finalized. First up, we have the DAC contract, which the majority of the funding of this, well, not the majority, 99% of it comes from our waivered services through the state of Minnesota. There are some county funding portions in there, but we have a cap on that in the contract. And so on that one, I would just move to approve that contract as written.
Is there any discussion, any questions?
Any changes in that contract at all?
No, some of the rates went up just a bit, but that's based on what the state's rates are, so. Yeah, and these are for the therapeutic, quote, therapeutic work services. So the DAC provides, the jobs for our clients on the DD waiver and adult waivers, and helps them through for employment stuff, so.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Dave.
I'll second.
Thank you, Shar.
Are all the jobs still supervised, or are some? They are?
For the most part, they are supervised, yeah. There are a few that are kind of, but they unsupervised per se, but everybody does have a caseworker that works with them.
About how many clients do they have?
Oh, I would have to get that exact number and get back to you. But it would be what would include for our, all of our waivered clients that we have on the DD waiver. So I think it's just over 100 roughly.
Wow, I didn't know it was that many.
Yeah. So the majority of the DD waiver clients and some of the adult clients that have a severe persistent mental illnesses that are on this, so.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
And next up, we have the Prairie Support Services contract. And this is for guardianships and conservatorships that we have that we do contract out for on occasion. Well, more than on occasion. We try to outsource these as much as we can because it is a lot of time and a lot of work put into guardianships and conservatorships. So I would just ask that this be approved as well.
Okay, any questions?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Shar. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
And the last one up is it's just an agreement between the state of Minnesota and the county to provide and administer the child support programs for the state of Minnesota through Hubbard County.
I'll move.
Thank you, Dave. And I'll second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Brian.
Yes.
You house part of SEP in the social services
Yes.
department?
Mhm.
Are clients comfortable with coming, do you feel, to social services? Or do you think they might do better if it wasn't in that building?
You know, Jeff had asked me about that yesterday, and I do believe that, you know, we'd have to talk with them, but I think it would be more advantageous to be another place where they would have the access to employers, much like the hangar. It would be really good, because then you have your case management services there for them, as well as then they have the opportunity to meet with employers and have that engagement, and that's what that program really is. So I don't think that they're uncomfortable coming there, but I think it would be a better fit being where the employers are. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
I have one question. I wasn't at the February work session, but I was listening in, and you were going to check with Northwoods about, what's the status on that?
So I'm still working with Jonathan through the contract portion of it to work with Northwoods. They are coming up with some different maybe solutions that they could provide to us that would not cost anything. Yeah, no real update on that as of yet. So it's interesting. And again, you know, with that, I wasn't here, I wasn't able to talk about it, but, you know, the services that we have they do work. And so ultimately, you know, with one of the upgrades that we were looking at, it was gonna cost some money. And, Beth had looked at, or had been contacted by ISC, with that, to see if we would, you know, if we would be interested to come back. And I thought, you know, if we're gonna be doing an upgrade here in the future anyways, would it make sense to do that? So, and of course, having talked to Northwoods about it prior to coming to the work session, you know, there wasn't a lot of, they didn't really have much to say about it, but then once it did come forward, then of course they, you know, the contract and some different things. But Jonathan does feel that there may be some options for us to get out of that if we decide to do so.
Great. And I don't know if, what you gathered since you were gone, but my concern with it was, we can't be doing this every 2 or 3 years. I mean, it's a lot of money
Right.
upfront to get into a different software package. And then if you're going to do that, if there's rationale to do it, please show the cost-benefit analysis and the payout period.
Yes.
And if there's a penalty to leave the existing one and there's an upfront cost, how many years is it gonna take
To
pay
recoup
this-
that.
To recoup this money and make this pay? Why is it a good change besides just the tools and?
Right, yeah, and part of that, what, you know, when you look at the yearly costs of ISC versus the yearly costs of Northwoods, again, you know, we had met with ISC prior to implementing the Northwood system, and they didn't have anything that was
Right.
anywhere near that. And so, again, one of those deals where, I mean, what we have, it does work. It doesn't work
Yeah.
as good because the state of Minnesota changed. They
And
changed.
that kind of thing between multiple vendors can happen all the time. So then you can go back sometimes to your existing vendor and get a better deal.
A better deal. Yep.
Yep.
And that's, yeah, again, that's all, I'm working with Northwoods on that to see if they can do anything, or if not, if there's something that we can do to get out of the contract. And then I can provide that if we do come forward with that at a later date.
So my whole concern on it was we can't be moving so fast on some of this stuff, and it needs to be vetted better, because there's been some mistakes made in the past that have cost the county a lot of money.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And, because we didn't vet well enough.
Correct. Yep.
Go slow to go fast.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, no matter what kind of sweet deal they throw out at you, usually that's available later too.
Later too, right. Yeah, and I think the deal through ISC is available. It is a little bit more expensive, again, you know, but when you look at the grand scheme, it seems $30,000. Better not to rush through it, and, you know, because the majority of that money is able to be recouped through the state's funding anyways, so.
And obviously, the optimum time is at the end of your contract to be looking ahead.
Looking
So
ahead.
you're not paying a penalty.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Sheriff's Department.
Morning.
Morning.
Couple things on the agenda here. First one, review and approve a quote for updating the panic button system here in the government center. This is part of the Safe and Secure Courthouse grant project. We did receive a $40,000 grant through that program. It's a 50/50 grant. I believe we addressed that at a previous meeting, so this would be one of the projects included under that grant. And I guess in addition to that same topic, there's the second project that's included in that grant, and we were waiting for an updated quote on that second project, and that's to update the security cameras in the courtroom area of the government center. That's been identified as a security committee as a area of need, and it was covered under this grant and written into this grant. So I do have the updated quote for that as well. We didn't get it in time to get on the agenda, but that's through All-State Communications.
We did add that item to the agenda, and the board chair does have a copy of that for signature, so if you just want to provide the background and the cost. I think we can take both of these together as they really were advanced together through the security committee and in relation to that security grant, that Safe and Secure Courthouse grant.
Okay. So for the panic button project, that quote was received from Permar Security out of Bemidji, a total of $6,700 to update that system. And All-State Communications was the vendor with the quote for the security camera project for a total of $50,713.40. Or I'm asking for approval of both of those quotes to move forward with those projects.
And the match is 50% up to $40,000, so add those two things up and
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Sheriff.
I'll second.
Tom? Any further discussion?
Just kind of quick, that includes install on everything, doesn't it?
Yep, that does include install. It also as part of the grant, we did budget for some local contracting expenses as well, so that will be covered under the grant.
There's no further discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
The last, I believe, agenda item is just review and approve the WatchGuard video quote that we have received. It's an updated quote from the one that we presented to the board in December, and this is the upgrading the squad car cameras and then all of the body cameras. We have gone through the posting, public notification period and public comment period on that project, so we are ready to move forward. The updated quote has a slight change. There was an additional $1,200 that they did add to their initial quote, some hardware components that were missed during the first quote. So I'm just asking for approval of this updated quote from WatchGuard, so we can move forward with that project as well.
And it looks like that $1,200 is up for the mounts or whatever that are in the squad cars?
Correct. What that is we have 8 existing squad cars that have a new enough camera system where we can keep those cameras. We don't have to buy new ones. But in order for them to communicate with the back end, the infrastructure network, we need it's a modem basically that uploads or assists in the upload process.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve?
That was state qualified, wasn't it?
Yeah, those are all state bids.
I'll make a motion to approve. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Anything else, Scott?
That's all I have unless you guys have anything for me. All right. Thank you.
Environmental Services. Good morning.
Good morning. I've got one item for the board, and that is renewal of our staffing agreement with Always There Staffing, who provides our AIS watercraft inspectors for that program with the upcoming season. The agreement is pretty much the same verbiage as it has been in prior years. The only real changes would be adjustments to the pay ranges. That's due to as we have returning inspectors, one of the things we incentivize their return with is in 25 cents an hour increase for every year that they have been functioning as an inspector. So that serves us well in giving us about half of our needed inspectors that are veteran inspectors. It makes things way more efficient and effective. And Always There changed ownership last year, so the new owner has taken a look at what their expenses are, and as we're seeing all over the spectrum of things, costs of doing business are increasing, so they've evaluated what their insurance and workers' comp expenses are, and they've proposed an adjustment to their rate for this year from what it has been in prior years. It had been 34% of what the hourly compensation was for the inspectors, and they've raised that to 39%. We did have assistance with HR. They reached out to another staffing agency to just ask, what would you guys be able to do this for? And they came back and said, not anywhere close to what is being offered here. So we've got a seemingly good deal, and we've only had excellent service provided by them over the years. So they're kind of integral to the program working as well as it has been. So with that said, it's been reviewed and approved as to form by Jonathan, and so it would be before the board for approval today. And we did factor in that increased costs into our budgeting. We started that conversation with them last year.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Dave.
I have one question.
I do too, but do you want to second it?
Okay, yeah, I'll second.
Okay.
Item number 7, they got at 56 cents per mile. That's last year's rate. Was that meant to be 58.5?
I was prepared for that if they proposed it, but this was the rate that they presented to us that they wanted to charge, so I wasn't gonna argue.
Okay, all right.
If you cannot find people to work for the dollar amount listed here, you then need to come back to the board for an increase.
Potentially, we might need to do that. We did, I forget, I think it was 2 years ago that we raised the starting rate from 13 an hour to 15 an hour just to try to remain competitive, because you can go clean cabins on the weekends for 20 an hour. So it seemed like last year that the rates were sufficient to attract a sufficient pool of applicants, but we're constantly in communication with the agency. If they say this spring, hey, we're not getting a whole lot, then we'll certainly revisit that.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. That's all that I had.
Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
Just a brief note too, that last night's planning commission was the first one that used the same video manager streaming, so that drew a line in the sand and said that meeting's gonna be available in the same format as the county commissioner meeting.
And that went smoothly, Eric?
Yeah, thankfully.
No stress there, right?
yeah. We haven't had any hiccups with the system at all, have we, yet?
We had one meeting where the video, I don't know if there was a loose connection or something, but if you go back and you look through the streaming video, it was kind of like in purples and yellows, and just, it was just out of phase. The colors were goofy. The sound was fine. Commissioner Stacy sent an email and said, the color was bad on this one. And I said, well, next week we're gonna do neon, so. We have no idea what happened. I talked to IT and Mark came over and tightened all the connections in the server room, but no, otherwise we have not had a problem.
And Sue?
And I've watched online, on the streaming, and the key is use your microphones, please. When people mumble, you can't hear, so.
Thank you.
But otherwise, it's very nice. You can expand it and see all of you. And we always see the back of everybody's head. Who's sitting in the chair, and so, you know, I'm sure that you're all good.
Yeah, without staffing, it just shoots that camera. So it's just a static view of that camera. And it would be technologically too much of a production to try to do a whole lot more with it than just shoot that camera, but it is good documentation, and it is providing a service to the public as your discussion was last fall.
Good to hear.
Yeah, I appreciated it completely.
Do you have numbers of amount of people looking?
Dozens. You know, I mean, I can see right now that there are 9 active viewers. There have been 9 peak viewers, and there have been 13 total views during this meeting.
Oh, okay.
So that's during the live stream. And then, of course, the number of views on YouTube will accumulate after it's been archived, so.
That's a good thing.
Dozens of people, not hundreds of people yet.
Yeah, yeah.
We do
Maybe
have,
we'll get there.
we do have 5 subscribers to the channel, so we're moving.
Something controversial and
Yeah.
under the administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item is related to our historic courthouse roof project. We have, I think that we'd already approved applying for the grant and all that. So just in one motion, I was hoping that what we would do would be to confirm acceptance of the grant and then confirm this AIA contract with McDonald and Mack Architects, the group that helped put that together. And they will take that through the bidding phase and the construction of the site phase, and all of that. Now, this AIA document is still a draft. We're just hammering out the last details related to the liability coverage that they need to have. So I would say that the motion we would make would be pending agreement on the liability coverages between us and the attorney. Jonathan reviewed that. That was his question, and we're still working that out. So I think that the important part on here is that their costs were calculated into the calculation for the total project, and that we're still on right now, until we get bids, we're still on schedule to get this project done for the amount that's determined. The grant was for $237,000, and our match is 10%. And that should cover everything according to spec, although we don't know what the bids are gonna come in as. And there's one element that we're still also trying to arrange, which is to get a structural analysis to make sure that the spec calls for adding a layer of sheathing on top of the current roof before they put the new roofing on, and want to make sure that the engineers have a chance to look at that and determine if that additional load creates a problem or if it improves the situation. So we need to get that done. That will be on our dime. I don't anticipate that's going to be more than $10,000, but I don't think. So if we approve the acceptance of the grant, and then the approval of this contract pending that review of the liability coverages, they've already started work, and they'll get the bids out here very quickly, and we'll move forward. I think they were planning a bid opening in June, and a project starting in August or September.
Great.
Has it first 30% been received yet, or?
Yes,
Has it? Okay,
yep.
good. So we're ready to go.
It's kind of your baby from the start. You want to make the
Yeah.
motion, Tom?
And it's got to be finished by June 1st, 2023?
The grant period is for a year, yes. We anticipate that the project will be zipped up before the end of September, October.
Good.
Before the snow flies, hopefully.
Let me just say, this has been a long time in coming, so
Yeah.
thank you for your persistence, and thank you, Jeff, for all the work you did on it.
Were you the one that wrote the grant?
Unfortunately, I was.
Okay, well, good job.
The architects provided all the information and then said, there you go, get that submitted. And she gave that to me on a Thursday and the deadline was Friday. And I wasn't really excited with the way that went, but I'm excited about the outcome, so.
Okay, thank
Always
you.
seems to be the problem area, doesn't it?
Okay, can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion, yes.
Tom?
I'll second.
Thank you, Dave. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
And then related to an administrator's report, just an update that the HCTA meeting would be March 21st at 7. It'd be in Straight River Township, although they're leaning towards Zoom again. One of the current events to be reviewing with them is related to the redistricting process. I know that Kay has already sent out the first required, the information that she received from the Secretary of State. She has forwarded to all the township and municipal contacts. I know that went out last week. If I look forward to next week for our work session, we have ICS, who's doing our facility assessment, will be here to, they're doing the background, the facility assessment, the condition assessment, but they also are gonna meet with this group and with the department heads on March 8th and on March 9th, where they're gonna review the adequacy of space. So where does the space work? Where doesn't it work? What do we think about future needs? So that we have that to land in with the condition report to get really close to having a capital plan. So the first part of our meeting next week will be with ICS. They'll be here and they'll walk you through kind of a planning process and try to get your ideas related to the status of our facilities. I walked through their proposed agenda yesterday with them, and I think we're gonna have a good result. It's gonna take an hour to get through that. The second item that I have is an Enbridge update. Christine wanted to be here and provide an update of activity. So she's planning on coming at 10. We have a draft of the drug paraphernalia proposed ordinance to just review and talk about the process and look at that.
Could you make sure Corey and Jonathan know what time that is?
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
We have an update from the assessor's office related to this year's market evaluations. We're gonna see some increases due to the sales history over the last couple of years, and wanted to make sure that you have a good background on that. And then I'll provide an update, Kay and I will provide an update on where we're at with redistricting and what we think we're doing. As far as I understand now, the city of Park Rapids is not gonna move their precinct boundaries. They're gonna leave them at the highway where they are. They are under no obligation to balance to within 10%. Precincts don't have to balance. So they're completely within their right to do that. I believe Angel told me that was gonna be on the consent agenda for their next meeting. So that will have some repercussions for us and provide us with a direction going forward. So those are the items that I have on the work session. That's gonna be a full meeting next week to get through all of that. Yeah, and I can talk to Corey, and if we can just schedule them in at 10:30, then I think we can work the other stuff in around that.
That Corey would be here along with Jonathan.
And then, I am attending the legislative conference down in St. Paul this week, so if there's any particular comments or things you want me to relay, I don't know who we're meeting with. They haven't reviewed the schedule of which of our representatives we're actually gonna have meetings with, or how we're gonna communicate to that, but, I will be down there if there's any specific numbers that you want me to remind representatives that we're interested in.
I have something.
Okay?
Minnesota remains, the 6th highest in the nation for overall taxes. And the lowest tax rate in the state of Minnesota is, I believe, higher than the highest tax rate of I believe it's 24 states. I can get that to you for accuracy. Instead of spending all this money that everybody seems to be we need tax cuts. And so that would be mine. I'm gonna relay that anyway to people, but the idea of giving money to places that will be ongoing expenses, because Governor Walz has a lot of that in his proposal, I'm totally against that. I mean, if we can't learn to live within our means, Minnesota is only, our solution is over and over, it is tax, 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 tax. So
rather-
that's my,
I'd rather see the permanent tax cuts rather than the one-time Waltz
Yes.
checks. That's what they want to call them, Waltz checks.
yep,
And I agree with that, but also properly fund the things you already have that exist.
yes.
Like Department of Corrections, supervisory, I mean, I know that's a big thing. Obviously, the damage done to nursing homes and stuff, Medicare and Medicaid funding could be more aligned with what hospitals get, would be big.
So the Republicans have announced a major tax proposal cut this week that would be permanent. It cuts the lowest of our 4 income tax rates from 5.35 to 2.8%. So then everybody, no matter what level you're at,
That first tier will get,
that first tier of the $27,230 in income, every Minnesota would see a tax cut plan. And then the Republicans are also proposing to eliminate the taxation of Social Security income in Minnesota. So cutting the Social Security taxes in the lowest rate almost in half would keep $8.51 billion in the economy, just in the state of Minnesota.
That would help a lot of seniors to have the.
It would help a lot of
Social Security
seniors.
taxes cut.
And that's over 2 years,
This is a permanent tax cut.
but it would save eight.
Best part of the tax bid. It doesn't say that. Oh, wait, over the next 3 years, okay.
3 years, okay.
And then here it is, let's see, the cut of the lowest income tax rate would be welcome to Minnesota lowest personal income tax rate, which is currently higher than the top rate of 24 states in the nation. And so one thing that Mojave has seen is homelessness in seniors. Because they can't afford to stay in their houses, or they can't afford the heat, or whatever. And so, yeah, to have a tax cut out of there, or to not tax Social Security would be huge.
Every bit helps, yeah.
And there are other states that do that
Yeah.
very successfully.
So generally, balance the budget and pay for what you need to pay for, and not what you don't.
And don't create new spending patterns. I agree with Dave. Fund the things that are working well already instead of,
yeah.
But is there a specific number, are there any specific bills that we want to make sure that we,
well, MRC is, I don't know if any of the rest of you, I'm gonna be on that tonight, and they have a whole proposal of, were you included on that?
I did get the email, yep,
Okay, because they have specifics listed there.
yep.
There's also that special legislation
I was
for
gonna
the county, for Hubbard County to be able to sell lands and use that money.
Yes.
100% of it for, like maybe developing our park or purchasing other.
Yeah, and the bill on the PILT increases, has that passed yet, or is that still proposed?
I think that's Pat. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, wasn't that part of,
Well,
I'll get those numbers from Mark, Chip,
Okay.
because I know he's been following those.
And key specific to Hubbard County is our proposal, the bill moving forward to allow us to lay away some money from our timber sales for future purchase of lands. I don't know where that's at, but it's still in limbo there to push that. I don't know if I support the gas tax holiday or not. I mean, that's kind of you can see the benefit, but
Not unless
You
they're
know,
gonna, not
part of the
unless they're gonna
problem is
fund
you-
the roads.
you take that down, you take that down over the busiest time of the year up here, it's gonna have an effect, and then at some point, you gotta bring it back. So when you bring it back, is it gonna be painful for people, cause they got used to not having that gas tax on there?
however,
Price of oil goes down and the
The-
gas goes down, you wouldn't notice when it comes back.
The bigger thing would be to backfill the road funds,
Yeah.
road and bridge funds. I mean, if they're planning to pay for that with that, well, that's fine, but if they,
And if they do that, what's the difference then?
Then there is no
Why do
difference.
it?
Yep.
I think they were talking about taking it out of the general fund
Right.
to backfill that, but
So the only purpose of doing it is for optics then, because you're still spending the money.
yeah, when gas has gone up over 50% over the last year, it seems like a 28 cents coming off. Do we notice it? And then it's gotta go back on at some point.
I'm just grateful we got a surplus.
So the House Democrats announced a plan to suspend the gas tax for the summer, returning a whopping $200 million of nearly $8 billion surplus. Meanwhile, they're working on a plan to artificially increase the cost of gas by as much as 50 cents per gallon. I would be interested to know, I would like clarification on that, so what does that mean?
I'll pay attention. I'm sure we'll get an update on that. I'll be attending the general session, and that's gonna hit, all the things related to tax structure and budget. But I'll try and get updates from the other committees as well.
Thank you. That was it. On to committee reports. Who would like to start?
I'll start, I have several things.
Alrighty.
We had a Zoom meeting for Prime West. The DHS rejected mediation, so the lawsuit is moving forward. I don't have an additional update on that. On March 11th, here, hopefully in this room, Senator Aki will be here, and they're asking commissioners from anybody that's involved in Prime West to come. And it's gonna be, the discussion will be on why it's important that this county-based purchasing stands as is and on the lawsuit. Jim sent out a blanket email at this point. I don't know how many commissioners will be attending. But if you guys plan to attend, you're gonna need to let Jeff know, because Dan and I are already attending. So if we get more than that. That will be in person here on the 11th. Heritage, Dave, you and I can talk about that. When you start talking, I can chime in whenever. The HRA meeting, this was a really interesting meeting. Scott Wilson was there, and he manages the HUD vouchers for Hubbard County. And so we asked a lot of questions, and here's what I found out. So there was a total of there was a total of 511 vouchers used in Hubbard County in 2021. So a HUD voucher follows the person. So they can move from state to state. They get on a waiting list. And if their name comes up and they're living in Timbuktu in Vermont and they want to move to Minnesota, their voucher follows them. So we got into the discussion of how people can live without jobs. So, and Scott said the majority of people in HUD are really trying, but there's others that are working the system, and here's what happens. So you get into the HUD housing, and HUD pays 30% of their, or 30% of a person's income has to go towards their rent, and then the HUD voucher covers the rest. So the people that are abusing the system have already figured out if they quit their job, their rent is already paid for, and their portion of it is zero. And then, people on HUD housing are also given heat assistance. So even if you pay $0 for rent, you're still given a check in your name for heat assistance. Okay? And then he does inspections, so he's had personal conversations with people. They're then working for cash under the table so they can keep reporting their income as zero. And so the people that are abusing the system, that's how they're unemployed. Okay. Let's see, there are currently 125 local people that are on the waiting list to get into the HUD housing. And the HUD housing in Park Rapids is the River, is it River Heights? What's the name? Riverside. Thank you. There's 75 out of the area that are, and they're gonna look at closing that list for now because 200 people. They just need to close it till the numbers get back down. Okay, so public housing stays with the unit. So if there's subsidized housing here that's not Section 8 and someone moves out, that doesn't go with the person. That creates an opening for housing where the Section 8 stays with the voucher. So on the HRA board, we have people that own rental property. So talked about how they don't want to rent to people on Section 8 because there is not recourse to collect the rent or to have them pay for damages. Because people will just move out. And so Scott said you try get a month's deposit up front and then a month's deposit for moving out. But a lot of people don't have the money to do that. Then the only other recourse you have is if you actually evict them. If you actually go through the eviction process, the person loses their qualifications for HUD housing for the rest of their lives. So that is a real threat for people to try pay whatever they did for damages or rent. However, what what's happening in actuality is if there's a process for eviction, it costs at least $1,700 to evict a person. And the person will a lot of times move out before the eviction because then you haven't legally evicted them, so then they don't lose their Section 8. So this was all really interesting. It's disheartening for the people that are working the system. But Scott said, you know, there's a lot of people, this is doing a lot of good. And they are seeing people that are, this is a stepping stone and they're moving up in the world, which is the goal.
Do they have any idea, Shar, what percentage are working the system?
He didn't say, but, so I'm not gonna say, because he didn't give us a percentage. He did say, though, 65 to 70% of people that are on Section 8 are working.
Okay, thanks for the answer.
Yeah.
Partially.
So then we talked about how the workforce housing, those 2 apartments, they're working very well. And so how can we replicate that then in other areas? So we're looking, currently there's property for sale in Akeley, that might be a possibility. And so if we could purchase the property at a very reasonable price, then Mary's looking to see what kind of funding would be out there that we could put up 2 4-plexes, 1 8-plex or whatever. And the same concept is not to take Section 8, because we want people in there that are working. And so, that are working in the community trying to be as a stepping stone. And so that's where we left that at that. Then, the Prime Health meeting on Thursday. I need you to put this date on your calendar, March 24th at 12 o'clock. There's gonna be a Zoom meeting for every commissioner that is part owner of Prime Health. And it's really important that all of us attend that. It's Zoom only. And here's the reason why. I was reminded at the Prime Health meeting, we own our health insurance company, and so even though 5-year commitment is a long time, the goal of that 5-year commitment is to keep our rates affordable over those 5 years. So here's where the self-insurance pool is at this time. Last year, we had an 80% medical loss ratio, which was really good. We ended the year with a net revenue of $17,731, and the claims were $14,333. And let's see, the per member per month cost was $546. And there's, for the 2022 budget, the enrollment is looking at 4,200 contracts. So Prime Health is in a very good place financially. better than they expected to be. And 60% of all the people that have the prime health insurance are not paying out one dime for a claim. They either have, they don't go to the doctor, so they don't have a claim, or else they have enough HSA dollars to cover. So Matt had a lot of things to think about, so I want all of us to attend, take notes, and so when we're looking at what we want to do for insurance, we need to look beyond the cost of what the premium is, or beyond the cost of what, the deductible is, so we can continue to look long-term, whatever our decision is. So that was that. Tom's gonna talk about my hubby. Dave, you wanna talk about HLDC?
Well, one
Oh,
quick question.
okay.
Were they gonna send out a link to
They
the
are.
meeting and then?
They are,
do you have a
I just want it on your calendar. It's
time?
12 o'clock.
12, okay.
Yep. And then they also asked that Jeff and then Gina would attend.
And what were your thoughts on the Region 2 Area Agency on Aging, that Zoom meeting that you sat in on?
To be honest, I wondered if it was a duplication of services given through others. I would need more information.
Okay, I know a lot of it, of course, has to do with the Older Americans Act.
Okay,
And that's where a lot of the Title III money comes from, is from the federal government to fund those programs and all that. But it's, for me, it's kind of amazing to see what's available out there for seniors.
yeah, and, yeah. I was glad to sit in on it. It was informational. I saw it overlapping with some of the other, that's why I wonder if some of the services are replicated, but anyway,
Or if they work together.
yep. Yeah. Yeah, and you can report on that, the Nancy's guy, okay? That's what I had.
Right, Tom?
Yeah, I was just gonna briefly mention on my hubby, their Head Start program currently is meeting at the Frank White building over there, and that's going to be closed and demoed, make way for their new construction project. So they are currently looking for another location in the Park Rapids area, either to rent or to buy. And also another thing I was gonna mention on Head Start is that what they about 80 slots open right now? Yeah. So it's a really good program, so, it'd be nice. They're going to be doing some recruiting, so maybe all commissioners can promote it too. I think that's about all that I have.
Dave?
I'll start with HLDC. They are getting a lot more work done in the building. They're just waiting on audio visual. They do have a date scheduled where that'll end up in the conference room, but getting close to having that done. You did hear Shar mention about CEP. Looks like that might move into there. They've asked for, if they could use space there, so that might be a better fit. So it looks like, we approved that yesterday, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
We did, so, yeah. So that'll move out of the building over there and over in there, and we'll see what, that has some benefit. Because they place a lot of high-end jobs too, so it might be a better fit overall. The other thing that they have coming up that Jeff and Gina might discuss is they have a big career fair coming up that's gonna take place, and
April 1st.
when you look at, maybe having something just showing all the hirings the county has in different career positions for the past year, people might realize, there's a lot of jobs available here, decent paying jobs, with decent benefits. So maybe we can get more local people to stick around and take some of the jobs. So that's the big thing coming up. They do have a couple open houses that they're gonna start planning, one probably, I think, in April, more tailored towards local, and then one towards the summer, maybe in June, tailored more towards summer residents that would be here. So that's what's happening with that. Heritage, we had our meeting on the 22nd. We did get a data practice policy approved, so that will help with data requests and things of that nature. The positive is the cottages are basically full. So that portion of it is going well. We did have the audit reviews, so if you're interested in the PowerPoint presentation on that, reach out to Kurt, have him send it to you. Not a lot of good news in there, obviously, but it summarizes the financial situation pretty well. So if, it's not that many slides, but it would be beneficial for you to reach out to Kurt and ask for that, or if you wanna grab it, Jeff, and forward it around or something. It was well done. It gives you a quick snapshot of the whole scenario. And the nice part in there too, there was a comparison to our peers. So you can kind of see how we're doing compared to our peers. And then Kurt presented a work-back program that they're working on, trying to get the census numbers back up, trying to get staffing levels back up so we can accept more people. And there's some good ideas in there, but it's not gonna be easy.
So an example of that is, there were 12 people, there was a list given to all the facilities in the area for 12 people looking to move into long-term care. And so there was potential for 12 people to move in, but there's no staff to cover. So just, if we could have gotten 3 or 4 people to move in, that would be huge for the revenue. And so, along with those graphs, statewide, the nursing homes are at 74% occupancy, but Heritage is at 50, and so we're not even keeping up with our peers. So one of the, I get a legislative update from the Prime West from Jim, and so there's a bill that's been proposed, couple bills this week, and that would be loan forgiveness for people that go into healthcare industry, and then focusing on them willing to work in the rural communities. Because that's part of the problem, people don't want to live in rural to work. But I forwarded Dave an article I read this morning about a person that had been in healthcare and quit just over what happened the last couple of years. It's a really sad article to read for her love for people, and she's just had it. And there's a lot of people in healthcare, I think, that have just had it, and so how do we then overcome that? To get people to be willing to go back into, I don't know, we talked about that at HLDC yesterday, that there's people that have quit here or have been fired in healthcare in our local community that are skilled workers, so let's try to get them into a different, I mean, there's lots of places that need workers. How can we be then helpful to get them in a career change?
It's a good idea.
So,
Yeah, so I don't know, it's gonna be a hard road back with staffing unless, you have a little luck along the way that, people wanna live here and work here in that particular industry. It's gonna be a slow crawl to get the staff back where you want. But any improvement would be welcome at this point. Cause it doesn't take, if they can get 2 or 3 key staff people in, you can take in 4 to 6 residents. Then if you can get another 2 or 3 key of the right staff people in, now you're getting close to where you need to be if you can take another 6 in. So it's not that it's out of reach, it's just gonna take some time to get there.
and I don't know if any of you read, Paul Lucky had a letter to the editor about trying to handle the healthcare crisis, and they talked about the licensing, moving from state to state, where people could work in Minnesota from having a license from a different state. That's one of their solutions they're trying to.
And another example of absolutely detrimental policy was, and I kind of get why the policy was there, but if you had a couple bad surveys in a nursing home and you had a CNA training program, you had to suspend your CNA training program. Well, now you're taking away the tools that you need to improve on your surveys. So it was like a vicious cycle when they do
And-
those punishment type
Yeah.
of things that actually make it harder for them to remedy their issues.
And the
we
federal
got
is-
hit by that.
Yep, and the federal and state, I can't remember which comes in for surveys, or maybe it's both. But they're still doing the surveys at the speed they were before. So they come and they stay 1 or 2 days. Well, that basically ties up the RN who has to be involved in the surveys. And the surveys happen once a week. So it's really consuming a lot of staff time.
And losing our CNA training program for that time period we did, you know, you can easily see where you lost 2 or 3 potential CNAs from the pipeline for that period where it didn't exist.
All right.
And that's all I got.
Okay. Let's see, and I had the Region 2 Area Agency on Aging. That's a Zoom meeting because they're not allowing in-person meetings still because of the pandemic. Shar, were you able to get on with the link that I sent you? Or did
I was.
Okay, and I tried several times on Zoom and it said the meeting didn't exist.
Oh,
And then I called in and sat on hold for almost 15 minutes before they let me in the
oh,
meeting.
they didn't notice you were in there.
So, and I can imagine, I mean, the meeting gets going and you're not watching who's coming in and going, type of a thing. So I got in on the last part of it. There again, it's for the Older Americans Act. Title III, like Title IIIB is for infrastructure, Title IIIC nutrition, Title IIIE is for family caregivers, for those people, obviously they're helping the elderly. There's all sorts of grants available for those kinds of things. So I know in the meeting, he talked about last year, in review, the title funding, the legislative priorities, and new funding initiatives, and promotionals. And like I said, the big thing with the Area 3 Aging, Area Agency on Aging is the senior linkage line. So those people that need help, they have an 800 phone number where they can call and get all this information that's needed, whether has to do with how to sign up for Medicare, or what's available for, I'm a person in need, what's available for me, type of a thing. So I think it's a good thing, and like Shar was saying, there might be some overlap, but this is supposed to, of course, mostly for older Americans.
And you know what, it might appear to me to be an overlap in our community, but it might not be an overlap in other communities.
Yeah.
And so it just depends on what each community has for services available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I had a HRDC, Headwaters Regional Development Commission meeting. We are looking for somebody to represent cities for Hubbard County. Liz Stone resigned. Liz used to represent small cities, obviously, on the HRDC. So, of course, I was asked to see if I could find somebody, and also Theora Goodrich, who represents townships in Hubbard County, was asked. And we both made the same comment almost at the same time, that we don't live in cities, so I don't know of anybody off the top of my head to ask.
I have a name.
Okay,
I'll give you after the meeting.
thank you. We hired an executive director. I got a phone call. Of course, all the paperwork wasn't signed and all that yet. I got a phone call on my way home last night, and he already is backing out because his prior employer backed up the cash truck and
Oh,
is having him stay. We're also dealing with staff capacity. We could use a few more people there. Went through the audit, which everything looked good there. We were authorized to submit an EDA planning grant. We worked on some regional transportation coordinating. And we also have some housing loan gratuities or grants out there available. And we're also in the middle of, just like here with DDA, doing a study on our salaries, pay equity type of stuff.
oh, that's one thing Tom and I encourage. My hubby's trying to do an internal pay equity, and we really encourage them to outsource it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you get, obviously, you get that broader reach. Then I also had a fuel facilities meeting. last week. Everything looks good there. There was one tank that was taken out of service prior. They inspected it again and it passed, which nobody knows why it failed a couple of years ago, and then last year when they re-inspected, it's good to go. But, and let's see, I guess that's really about all I've got. At the audit, annual audit entrance meeting yesterday with Amy Thomas from the Department of Revenue. Kay was there and Jeff also, and everything is going good there, so.
I have one thing, speaking of HRDC, so Mary had gotten 6 applications already from people that wanted housing rehab, you know, and since our money's on hold, she was gonna check with Levi to see if the HRDC would have money to help
Perfect.
them.
I was just gonna say Levi'd be the man to talk to.
And then the Main Street revitalization grant they had,
Okay, the Park Rapids just got?
yeah, already out of money.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
so we
awarded to
have
5, I think, with, and then there's 2 with a potential one more to
So
apply
now
for.
the
more.
next round, it will apply for another grant, and then it's gonna include all the other cities too.
Good.
So there'll be an opportunity, hopefully, somebody wants to do some revitalization in Nevis, LaPorte, Dorset, Akeley, they'll be able to.
Good deal. Alrighty, is there anything else today? Guess I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Shar, thank you, Dave. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Alrighty. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.